Hello there, friends, and welcome to the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Today, we are going to quickly review the tight ends and quarterbacks on a contract year in the top 60 players, and we are going to review the tight end position and discuss why you don't need to spend an early pick on the tight end in 2020. There's some great options available late, so stay tuned for that.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmie Maverick.
Hello there, friends, and welcome to the Fantasy Maverick podcast. This is Jimmie Maverick coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and just wanted to please remind you all, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to this video if you're watching it on YouTube. I very much appreciate that. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things. Now, for the past few weeks, I've gone about talking about the elite wide receivers and running backs on a contract year. I was planning to do that for the tight ends and the quarterbacks as well, but as it turns out, there's not that many. In fact, there's only one tight end in the top 60 on a contract year, and there's only two quarterbacks. So I thought we'd just real quickly review them, and then we can go in and look at the tight end rankings and see who looks good and who doesn't for the upcoming year. So let's start out with the only tight end that is on a contract year in the top 60 this season, and that is Mr. George Kittle, who is one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, I think probably the best play of the season last year was that one where he caught the ball, and he's got three guys on him. One's grabbing his face mask and dragging it back, and he is still running down the field. I mean, that's just the most amazing thing to see, and just such immense power with that player. Kittle is great, but unfortunately, right now, and it's a contract year, so that's a good thing. I mean, you know, he's certainly going to get a big payday. I don't think it's going to happen this offseason, but after next season, he definitely will. He's a valuable part of that team, probably the best offensive player on that team, in my opinion. But my problem is that his draft position, man, it is so early. Right now, his ADP is at pick number 20, which when you look at the production and volume that tight ends get, it is almost impossible to get any value out of a pick like that. I mean, last year, his stat line, he had 85 catches for 1,053 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had on 107 targets in 14 games. So, you know, I mean, that's a really good season for a tight end. He was the number 2 tight end last year for fantasy. But unfortunately, he only gets a 17.8% target share. That's not that much, and that's not that much volume. Also on a team that is primarily a run-first team. So, you know, you also have situations like in the postseason last year where Kittle completely disappeared during the postseason. He ended up with 8 catches for 71 yards and 0 touchdowns in the playoff games and Super Bowl last year total. Not per game, total. So I got to say, man, even though it is a contract year and he's a great player, he's coming off the Super Bowl. He's going to have the Super Bowl slump this year. I'm just not seeing any upside in his current draft position. I think and because of that, I would stay away. There's other tight ends that I like a lot more that are available a lot later and will actually provide value to your team. Kittle's not going to do that this year, so I would stay away. Now, the two quarterbacks, you've probably heard of these guys that are on contract years, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Both these guys have contracts that end in the 2021 season. And as I explained in the last episode, when it comes to quarterbacks, their contract year that matters is the year before their contract year season. Okay, the reason is because most quarterbacks do not actually go into their contract year. They are signed to extensions before then. They are the most valuable player on the team. So when you talk about someone like Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, elite players in their position, in fact, I think there's a chance. Well, I'm pretty sure that Mahomes will, maybe less so with Deshaun Watson this season, but I'm guessing Mahomes is going to get his contract extension now. And they're saying it's going to be a blockbuster. It's going to be like a $200 million contract. He's going to earn somewhere around $45 to $50 million a year in the NFL. It's going to be a record setter for contracts. And he deserves it, man. I mean, totally deserves it. But when it comes to me and my general draft strategy, I do not take a quarterback early unless I'm playing in a small league. Okay, that's 10 teams or less. In 10 teams or less, I go for the positional dominant strategy, which is I go early on an elite quarterback and an elite tight end to give myself a week-to-week positional advantage on those two positions on my fantasy team. But for larger leagues, 12 teams or larger, I like to wait as long as possible to take my quarterback because value is the most important thing you need in larger leagues. So right now, Mahomes, I like him. I think he's great. But if he gets that big contract extension, I don't think I'm going to be able to recommend him anymore. That's a big negative. It's going to swing his outlook negative, and why would a big contract extension be negative? Well, it's because these players are playing all out for the big contract extension. You saw Mahomes, his level of play during the playoffs last year. 3 come from behind victories, 4 touchdowns scored in a single quarter. I mean, he was setting all sorts of records during the postseason last year. And he is a great player, and he's going to have great games. But for fantasy purposes, he was not great last year for fantasy. He had that record-setting season in 2018, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, or whatever it was, and then he slumped hard. He regressed really hard last year and was simply ordinary. He was like the 6th or 7th best quarterback. Anybody that took him last year really regretted it, and I'm betting you didn't even make the playoffs. Okay, you need to get value on your team. And when you look at these guys, are they really going to offer it? Deshaun Watson's big negative also is that his primary target, his target, who he had a 30% target longer on the team. So how's that going to affect his production? So these guys will play well. They are excellent quarterbacks. They will make do with what they have when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And I've already talked about how I love Will Fuller for the upcoming season because he's on a contract year 2. And I love it when we start stacking contract years. It doesn't happen that much, but when it does, it's usually a positive thing. Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper were both on a contract year last season. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry were both on a contract year last season. When you have 2 contract year players on the same team, they feed off of each other, and it makes them both more effective and more successful. So, Watson does have that. And, his ADP is also dropped because of when Hopkins left, he's now dropped to the number 4 quarterback going at about pick number 60. So, there might be a reason to take Deshaun Watson as a value play, especially if he falls, at number 60, that's the end of the 5th round. If he falls into the 6th, boy, I might make serious consideration to take him. But I think with both these guys, you're going to have a tough time justifying getting value out of your pick just because of where they're drafted. And there are better options available later that will offer upside to your team. So that kind of wraps up the contract year players of the top 60. But let's move on. Let's talk about the tight end position. Now, the tight end position has just been really tough the past couple of seasons. I mean, in 2018, there was basically only 3 guys that did anything for your team in the tight end position. It was Kelsey, it was Ertz, and it was Kittle. Last year, it got a little broader. You had good seasons from Waller, from Hooper, from let's see here, who else was on there? Oh, Andrews. Yeah, Andrews had a great year, right? So this year, you've got that, but there are some nice high upside plays right now in the tight end position. Obviously, the other big issue is injuries, right? Injuries have just devastated that position, and you've got to find yourself, making amends and finding secondary options when your player is injured and it's not happening. But right now, here's what the top 12 looks like. Okay, so in the 2nd round, you got two tight ends going. You got Kelsey and Kittle. And again, Kelsey is the same way as Kittle, man. You're not going to get any value out of those plays. Kelsey was the number one tight end last year. 97 receptions, 1,229 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's a great statistical year. But if you took him, you know what I'm talking about. I had him in a PPR league where I took him in the second round, and the guy just didn't get me the numbers that I needed from a second-round pick. When you talk about a second-round pick, you want a guy that's going to get you around 20 points a week. Kelsey didn't even come close, even in PPR. And it just really, really hurt the team. And so, again, I just don't think either of these guys are going to be worth the pick. At number now, there's no tight ends taken in the third round, but in the fourth round, you got two. You got Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz. Now, Mark Andrews was the TD leader for the tight ends. He got 10 last year. And unfortunately, I am seeing that he is a huge regression candidate for tight ends, as is Lamar Jackson. So because of that, I absolutely do not want someone like Mark Andrews with with a pick in the fourth round. That's a really early pick for a guy like that. Now, Zach Ertz, I think, offers some value. He's fallen now to the fourth tight end, going at pick number 47. So this is right at the end of the fourth round, beginning of the fifth. Man, if I could get Ertz in the fifth round, I'll take him 100% of the time. Ertz is the volume king. No one gets more targets than Zach Ertz. And so that means he does have value there. Now, I do know that we've got a second tight end on this team. We got Dallas Goedert, who really came on strong last year, especially towards the end of the season. And I think a lot of people are thinking that, Ertz is going to really that Goedert is going to eat into Ertz's time and targets. And I think that is a concern. Obviously it's a thin position as far as tight ends go for volume, but Goedert really benefited at the end of last season from the fact that Ertz was dealing with some serious injuries, cracked rib, lacerated kidney, but he was playing. Ertz was playing through it. He did not play well in the final few games of the season as a result of that, and because of that, Dallas really came on and really did great. So Ertz is on this top 12 list actually, but like I said, I think Ertz is fine. And totally take him if you can get him in the fifth round, geez, take him. I mean, really, that's the guy who I really want. You got Austin Hooper. Okay, so then, so that's the fourth round. Okay, so now in the fifth round, one tight end is going. That's Darren Waller. And Darren Waller, I think, is a great choice. He's right at the sweet spot for me for tight ends. The fifth or sixth round is where I love to take my tight end one. And Waller, he's in a great system that utilizes the tight end. He's going to get the volume. I think that the Raiders are going to be better this year. So, there's a lot of positivity around Darren Waller. He's a great fifth round pick as well. Then there's a little bit of gap, and then at the beginning of the seventh round, right at the end of the sixth, beginning of the seventh, you got 3 tight ends coming off the board. You got Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, and Evan Ingram. Now, Austin Hooper, I see as a regression candidate. He's moved to a new team. It's a new system. We don't know what his utilization is going to be. We don't know how good the quarterback's going to be. So there's questions there. So, and certainly this team is, the Browns are stacked with talent. That's where Austin Hooper is now. But I would stay away from him because of that. I think there's some downside risk here. He's going to regress some. He's going to have to get adjusted to this new system. And don't forget, this whole coronavirus pandemic, anybody that's changing systems or is new into a system, like these rookies and stuff, we're going to have to downgrade all of them because they're not going to have the time that they had last season to get ready with the new playbook and running plays and developing trust and chemistry with their quarterback and the coaches and everything else. So that's a big negative for Austin Hooper. So I would stay away from him. Hunter Henry is right after him at pick number 72. And again, it's a guy that can't stay healthy, even on his contract year. And I love players on contract years, but if they go through a contract year and they can't perform, I don't want anything to do with them anymore. I just don't think it's going to happen for them. And all the chips are stacked in their favor on a contract year. If they blow their contract year, then they're pretty much dead to me. Hunter Henry needs to prove to me that A, he can stay on the field. I mean, B, when he's on the field, he's good. He's effective. But, I don't need a player that's good but can't stay on the field. That's no good for me for fantasy. Maybe for daily, I'll take a chance. I'll use a guy like that, but not for my season long. You also got Evan Ingram at pick number 75. And Ingram intrigues me. Obviously he's got an injury history as well. He's had a tough time staying on the field. But I got to say, it is a contract year for him. And he is on a very good offense for fantasy. Okay. It's a very good team for fantasy. It's going to be an effective offense. I really like Daniel Jones for the upcoming season. I think their defense is not going to be very good. And so it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to be behind. They're going to have to score a lot of points. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. That's going to benefit someone like Evan Ingram. As a seventh round pick, that's not bad. So I like him. Now we get a little bit of a lull. And then at pick number 87, Jared Cook comes off the board. And I'm really not interested in Cook. I just don't think he's going to get the volume that he needs. Like last year, he only got like 67 targets or something like that. That's not going to get you tight end one production, man. I mean, it's just not enough. And so I really would steer clear of Cook. Really, no tight end has done anything on the New Orleans Saints since Jimmy Graham left. And that's just the way it is. And they brought in several high-profile tight ends and just have never been able to get it done. So I would stay away from Cook. And number 10 is one that I very, very much like for upside. Tyler Higbee really, really did well in the second half of last season, especially after Everett went down with an injury. He really showed what he can do. The team believes in him. They actually signed him to a big contract last season. So I really think that he offers a terrific value. He's going at pick number 90. So, that's like middle of the 8th round. That is so great to get your tight end one at that point. Upside is there. Obviously the risk, same as with Ertz, splitting targets on a thin position. But I think it's going to be primarily Higbee's show. And so I would go with him. And so that's another one that I like. Now at 11 and 12, you've got Noah Fant and Dallas Goedert. This is after pick 100. So we're getting into the 9th round here. Noah Fant is, he's the most unproven of this entire group. You've got him and you got Drew Lock. Both these guys are unproven. They showed some stuff last year. They looked good last year, but they're both really young and very much untested. So because of that, I just don't think I want Noah Fant this year. He's going to be a target for next year, I think, is what it's going to be. And Goddard, again, I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year. I don't think he's going to get the volume he got last year. He was primarily a beneficiary of the fact that every other receiver on this team was injured. That's not going to be the case again this year. So I see a real regression possibility for him. I would not, as the tight end 12, no way would I take that guy. But when you go beyond 12, there are some guys who really, really look good for this year. And so this is what I'm saying here is you just don't need to go early on a tight end, man. Get Higbee, man. Higbee is great. But beyond that, one of my favorite guys at pick the 14th tight end at pick 120. So that's the 10th round. 10th round pick, Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. The guy really, really came on in the second half of last season. I think this offense is going to be significantly improved with a terrible defense. They'll be behind a lot. They'll have to score a lot. They'll have to throw a lot. And you've got, obviously a very streaky quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you've got potentially a rookie quarterback controversy going on. Those are all valid risks. I think it's all baked into his price. But waiting until the 10th round to take your tight end one, that's pretty good, man. I like that. Also, right after him at pick number 128, you got O.J. Howard, who's a guy who I had no interest in at all until Tom Brady came on. And, Tom Brady loves and utilizes his elite tight end options as receivers. Obviously, the biggest roadblock here is Bruce Arians and his overall philosophy, but I can see Tom Brady making the playbook so it maximizes his capabilities, and O.J. Howard is my Hail Mary pick for 2000. I mean, he could either be a big nothing or he could be like a top 3 tight end, right? There's like no in between with him. It's going to be one or the other. O.J. Howard, also contract year. Okay, so, there's a lot on the line for O.J. Howard. He's been such a disappointment so far. And has been injured often. The list is a mile long against him. But, why not maybe take a chance as your tight end 2? I just don't think I could do a tight end. I don't think I could wait and take him as my tight end 1. I don't think I could do that. But I think, again, the upside is there. Now, going a little bit further down the board, Ian Thomas of the Carolina Panthers at pick number 153. Gosh, this is so late in the game. But Ian Thomas, when you look at the tight end position for Carolina, last year, Greg Olsen had the 10th most volume amongst tight ends, okay? And now all that volume has to go somewhere, and I'm thinking a big chunk of it is going to go to Ian Thomas, who is in his 3rd season. And so there's a lot of upside here. You've got an improvement at quarterback. Bridgewater is definitely an upgrade over the backups that were playing last year. So I think that you are going to see Ian Thomas easily a tight end 1, possibly a high end, a top 6 tight end available at pick number 153. That's great. And now that I think about it, why not? If you're going to take a chance on O.J. Howard, grab Ian Thomas a couple of rounds later and ride with those 2 guys. I think that's a great option. You've got 2 high upside tight ends there, all very, very strong. And the last tight end I want to talk about is Chris Herndon. He is also in the 150s, his ADP. And last year, he had huge expectations, fell flat, played 1 game, and then was put on injured reserve. It was just a snake-bit year for him. It was a snake-bit year for the whole team. But he was very highly rated last year because of what he did in 2018. And I think that potential is still there. I think the Jets will be better, despite the fact that it's, in my opinion, the worst coach in the NFL. But I like, it's not a deal killer. Like, I like Le'Veon Bell too. But I think Chris Herndon as a tight end too, if you go that route, if you take 2 tight ends, I think Herndon is a great option because you can get him so late in the draft, and his potential is tight end 1 for both volume and effectiveness. So that kind of goes over where the tight ends are right now. Obviously, this stuff is going to change as we get closer to the season. There's going to be buzz building on some of these players. It's going to cause them to move around the board. But right now, again, I'm not seeing any reason to have to go early on a tight end. I just don't think it's necessary. You get yourself a Higbee or a Gesicki. I think you're going to be in great shape. And so that's kind of where we're at with tight ends right now. So thank you very much for watching the video today. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative. Like I said, we've got a lot of stuff happening in the next few weeks. We got the draft coming up later this month, which is great. And once all the draft tools update and get all the rookies in there, we're going to start doing some drafts. We're going to do some mock drafts here. We're going to see where players are going. We're going to see how to build the best team possible for 2020 here. And so thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. And like I said, we'll be back next week. We'll do another topic. I did get a nice suggestion last week from one of the viewers asking me to do something just on the wide receiver 2s or the running back 2s. Everybody does their top 12 lists, and everybody knows who the top 12 are. But when you look at that second group, the deeper group, the 2s, who are the guys that you should really target? Who are the best ones to get? So I think we're going to do that. We'll do a couple of weeks. We'll do one on the wide receivers and one on the running back, one on the wide receiver 2s and one on the running back 2s. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week. Stay safe out there. Hopefully this lockdown ends soon. I don't know how stir crazy you're going, but at least the weather's nice. You can get outside. But anyway, Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a great day, and we will talk soon. And be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and comment. Leave comments. If you got any questions, comments, or anything about any players, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much. See you later.